wild, a million dead-end streets.
The concepts of the albums was that the band didn't come from Earth, you know. So I guess we played that part to some degree. That seemed to communicate. I mean, we used to get fan mail, lots of fan mail, you know, where people actually did believe that. I said, no, Yorkshire, honest.
Oh, from Yorkshire? Well, of course they'll be fantastic.
I know loads of people who would love to have done what I did. You know, it was the most exciting thing I've ever done.
I watch the ripples change the size, but never leave the stream of warm and permanent sand.
We will never see his like again. He is the most influential artist of all time, and his music will still be listened to, along with the Beatles. His people will still be listening to Bowie's music in 200 years' time. I'm quite convinced of it.
David Bowie is one of the most amazing rock era performers we have ever seen and will ever see, because he was one of the very few artists, and is one of the very few artists, who understands the value of change and always understands the value of doing things to the maximum. So he'll always do things with the greatest effort possible, with the greatest talents possible. And there aren't many artists you can say that about. He seems to have an ability to bring out the best in other people, because that brings out the best in him.
He appealed across the board to gender benders, to men, to women, to boys, to girls, still does. And I think it's very difficult to say exactly that was the reason for his success. There are so many reasons. I think he's a very complex guy, and I think his complexity is the key to his success.
Ground control to Major Tom.
Space Oddity is one of those anomalies. Why was it a success? I think even to this day people throw their hands up and say, we're not quite sure.
Take your protein pills and put your helmet on.
I think Space Oddity worked really because it was different. It was David's first step really into the space strangeness.
Interestingly, with Space Oddity, Bowie's producer, Tony Visconti, wanted nothing whatsoever to do with the song because he thought it was a bit of a cheap cash-in on the recent Apollo moon landings. So in stepped Gus Dudgeon, Elton John's producer, who gave Bowie his first hit.
Well, Space Oddity remains, I think, to Joe Public, the favourite Bowie song. It was a big hit. It was written at a crucial time, at the height of the space race. And more importantly, I think David, like a lot of us, was deeply affected by the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, from which he took the title, Space Oddity. And in fact, the lyric is a story that actually draws the listener in. I think when you listen to that track, you don't realise how much you're being drawn in and become sympathetic to the plight of the spaceman.
It's beautifully balanced and beautifully put together. And of course now, and we're talking 35 years on, it still stands up as an all-time great piece of music. It doesn't sound at all dated. How do you improve upon it?
Hunky Dory wasn't actually the start of Bowie's career, but it was certainly when he arrived in the big time.
Although The Man Who Sold the World established Bowie as a credible artist, as a performer, whereas everything before was a little bit odd, eccentric and almost gimmicky, Hunky Dory was the album that most Bowie fans would now look back at and say, well, that was when we really started to identify with what he was doing. And that's when the chameleon aspect started to come through, because it did have such a diversity. And it was all locked together by Bowie's own personality and force of talent.
Changes is an absolutely perfect opener for the album. It's like a signpost for everything Bowie was going to do over the next few years and become the musical chameleon that he did.
How the others must see the faker I'm much too fast to take that test. Changes. Changes. Didn't want to have to be a richer man. Changes. Changes. Just wanted to be a better man. Time may change me. I can't trace time.
Played it through on the keyboards, and he said, well, you know, everybody in sort of from the beginning, so the bass comes in with the keyboards as he's changing his chords, and he's just doing the and then we go into the riff.
I watch the ripples change the size, but never leave the stream of
I
water.
can't think of anything better to sort of signal the way forward and let you know what was to come.
Changes was a very interesting song to open up the album. I think Bowie was making a lyrical statement. Changes. There's going to be changes in his life. There's going to be changes in the way he works.
It was Bowie's background as a mime artist and as an actor, having been trained in that quite a lot and picked up a lot of influences, as well as a musician, that basically told him, I'm going to open the album with something that's going to surprise everybody.
It also introduced the public to the wonderful string arrangements that Mick Ronson was capable of doing, those spiralling, cascading string riffs that became a trademark of Ronson's later on, and this was the first time we'd really heard them. So yeah, I think it was as much a statement of anything. Changes. It was a great album opener.
Changes. Pretty soon now you're gonna get older. Time may change me, but I can't trace time. I said the time may change me. I can't trace time.
Behind the scenes, his costumes are professionally cleaned and pressed. During the act, he slips into something new 3 or 4 times at least. David's chosen today a neat little model with a fringe.
They are. Oh, it's all right.
Later, he selects a satin psychedelic leotard, and then he's off to the bedlam once more.
The image of the band in Of This Earth, while you're up there, I guess as an actor to some degree, you believed in the concept of the album, or albums, and that seemed to communicate.
The thing about it is that the first show or the second show was just so boring. And it really was just as boring as it could be. And the songs were great. So after the show, I said to them, I said, you know, guys, I said, I think it would be totally cool, you know, it really would be cool if we tried to get a little more theatrical. I mean, you know David, you worked with Lindsay Camp, you danced with Hermione, you have a good theatrical. And I was making it sound like it was all my fault, so David could stay butch. This was Dumb Angie. Dumb Angie wants the show to look nice. They've got to get all dressed up and have lights, because Dumb Angie is bored with a bunch of musicians, right? Works, good cop, bad cop. David was, you know, well, I don't know, Angie. There's an idea, though, you know, looking at the boys from Yorkshire, and the boys are looking at me, and I'm going, listen, guys, it'll be cool. It'll really be cool. You don't have to wear anything you don't want to. You don't have to dress up any way you don't want to. You have to choose how you want to look. If you don't make the choice, I'll make it for you. I said to Ronno, I said, how about, he always looked beautiful. You know, his shirts, his mom just kept him immaculate. His shirts were starched and perfect, and I knew that's how he liked to look. And I said, well, Ronno, how about a suit? You know, some kind of... Well, I don't want to look ridiculous when everyone else is wearing costumes. I said, well, how about a gold lame suit? Oh, I don't know about that, Angie. That's Elvis, innit? I said, come with me to the shop. I've seen one. It's gold, but it's not lame. It was like tiny, tiny, thin corduroy, but gold. I mean, shiny gold. Ronno loved it. Ooh, I look fabulous in this.
The fans were, I mean, we spoke to a lot and kept in touch with a lot of them. And it seemed to open a door for them to create, to experiment with clothes and looks and how they, their own creates. It made it sort of okay to do things, whereas they hadn't thought about it before. This was, I guess, so wild and odd that they probably thought, well, I've got odd ideas and I've always wanted to do that, but I didn't know. So that was good. That was a good aspect of it.
Years ago, when the Beatles and Stones created scenes like this, the young saw them as rebels in an adult world. Bowie's appeal lies in rebellion too, only he must be more outrageous, for public tastes have changed. When he dresses up and plasters his face, the kids of today see it as his way of flaunting convention, and they respect him for it. It's worth wondering, though, what the beat age will spawn next, when someone like David Bowie isn't even freakish enough to shock us anymore.
I seem to draw a lot of fantasies out of people, and a lot of the fan mail I get. A lot of it is awfully nice. I mean, they say, how's your baby, and how's your wife, and what's your mum's name, and things like that. But some of them are worth framing.
We're in San Francisco, and we'd just come off stage, and we had like jeans and t-shirts on, just chilling out. And three guys bulled up, and they had roller skates on, dresses, beards, full makeup, earrings, the works, and they just stood in front of Mick, Trevor and I, and one guy just went, gee man, you're really weird. And we went, what? You know, it's like unbelievable. And they actually saw that we were weird, you know, and we looked at them and went, you're joking, man, you know.
Most of the reasons that I do what I do is because I just like startling people.
Startling?
Yeah, something to do. England has a marvellous habit of being able to dissipate everything through this marvellous media. Long hair quickly got dissipated. I mean, I used to be able to stop traffic quite easily by just walking down the street, you know, no more than that, just because I had long hair. I'm a real trooper, you know. This is my life, really, you know. writing or performing, there's not much else I want. It's the biggest kick I know. I know all the drugs, and you get a different kind of buzz off those, but stage is just something else. It's partaking of people. I'm very much a character when I go on stage, I feel. I mean, I
Like an actor?
yeah, I believe in my part all the way down the line, right the way down. But I do play it for all it's worth, because that's the way I do my stage thing. That's part of what Bowie's supposedly all about. I'm an actor.
We toured America with Ziggy. The first American tour, we went out there for 3 months, and we did, I think it was 12 concerts in 3 months. We started off playing in a little place in Boston to, I think it was 200 people. And I always remember Tony DeFries saying, when we come back, there was a big hall next door that held 10,000 people, and we were playing in this small one that held 500. He says, we'll play that hall at the end of this tour, we'll play in that hall. And we did, we came back and did 2 nights, sold out, 20,000 people.
How could he have been so important when they didn't sell any records? Because Tony DeFries talked RCA out of the tour support that helped keep them going long enough for the record sales to catch up. So it wasn't that they weren't good or anything like that, or that they couldn't sell records. It's because the audience had to catch up and grow up and understand what was going on. There was about a 2-year lag before they started selling. But to give RCA credit, and Tony DeFries, he kept RCA interested in paying, and RCA kept paying, and they were very kind. I was the person who was able to get the Pennebaker film funded by turning around and going to the research department of RCA at Select Division and asking them for the money, because we'd gone up there to play for the factory workers, to be cool. And I thought of that too, because I'm not an idiot, I'm a marketer. So they owed us one, and they were so kind. They turned around and went, sure, we'll pay for the Pennebaker film. So when Tony DeFries couldn't get another dime out of RCA, I was able to get the money for the Pennebaker film to be made.
Wake up, you sleepyhead. Put on some clothes, get out of bed. Put another log on the fire for me. I made some breakfast.
Oh You Pretty Things is an amazing track. It's a real kind of melancholy mix of melodies, strange stop-start time signatures, and these amazing lyrics that allude to cracks in the sky, which is actually Bowie talking about his split personality.
What are we coming to? No room for me, no fun for you.
An interesting song, very, very commercial. Shows how Bowie was capable of making some quite intricate chord changes, and you weren't always aware of them. It starts going from F to G, and then sneakily works its way up to the verse, which is in F sharp, which is an unusual key.
Oh You Pretty Things is one of those songs that you look back at now and you realise, of course, it was very ambivalent, very bisexual, even homosexual in the way that it worked. And the era it came out in, of course, people were opening up their whole horizon to accepting anything. Sexual experimentation was regarded as part of the era. People talk about the permissiveness of the 60s, but it was a very straight-laced permissiveness to some extent, at least as far as the public was concerned.
Yeah, no, and I don't think England was shocked. It was just everyone was shocked because no one was talking about it. So you would go to the Sombrero where, you know, it wasn't even a gay club, but there were lots of gay people there. You go across the street to the Gates. There was plenty of all of this excitement going on, you know, in our cities where it was a little hipper, but no one talked about it.
I think from the drums it was just a simple beat that that didn't really let up, even though it was a commercial type song. It was this, and there was I remember there's an odd little fill on the hi-hat and snare, where it's like dum-bat, bat, dum-bat, bat, boom, bat, dum bat, dum-bat, bat, which I hadn't heard before, but it just seemed to really lift it at the right point.
Oh, you pretty things.
it's a pretty basic thing, really. You know, he's playing gong, 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 gong. He's playing nearly the same on the keyboard. Dong, gong, gong, gong. You know, it's that sort of thing. So you don't really need to put a lot in it. You know, it's just that. And that's all there is in that song.
Split personality, schizophrenia, mental illness is a theme Bowie revisits again and again throughout his career. He's had various brushes with mental illness in his family over the years. So it's something that really has affected him and has really affected his work and his lyrics as well.
It's a god-awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair, but her mummy is yelling no.
Life on Mars was definitely one of the best tracks he's ever done.
To be seen. Now she walks through her sunken dream to the seat with the
Life on Mars is one of the all-time great songs. Not just an all-time great Bowie song, but an all-time great song, full stop.
The song starts quite simply, almost like an Elton John song in F, with just quite an easy, it lulls the listener into it. And then all of a sudden you get this powerful chromatic run on the cellos, the guitar and the bottom end of the piano from an E flat to an E natural up to an F, and then it develops into that wonderful chorus in B flat, which features the fantastic cascading strings that Mick Ronson was capable of writing.
10 times or more. She could spit in the eyes of fools if they ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the long man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if you'll ever know who's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars?
It was, I mean, it's the basic Bowie, as he was writing in those days, keyboard rundown, you know. He wrote a lot of songs with the bass lines running down, and then you go down, then you get the, which the string part comes in there, which is what the strings play, which is what I played, and they added the strings in over the top later on to play that.
I think listening to it, you're thinking, imagination-wise, it puts you into another world altogether, and the perfect fusion of classical and rock just works.
It's a product of the band again, you know. I mean, it was a basic song that was played to us, and I added the bass lines, and then Ronson wrote the string parts, and he used some of the bass lines to go with the string parts. And then Rick came along and did all the keyboards over the top and stuff. So it was, to make the song sound like that, it was a band thing, definitely.
Well, I'm up on the 11th floor and I'm watching the cruisers below.
Queen Bitch is one of Bowie's most exciting, exhilarating, sexy songs. He notes on the album, some VU white light returned with thanks. This is a tribute to the Velvet Underground, and it is the most exciting couple of minutes. It's just exhilarating.
Can't see her letting him go. Walk out of her heart, walk out of her mind. No, 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 she's so swissy in her satin and tie. In her frock coat and bibbidi-bobbidi hat. Oh, but I could do better than that.
That song, actually, was given to the band by Bowie about 6 months before I ever met Bowie. He sent a song out, because Mick had rung him up and said, well, because the band was doing an album for Polydor, and we needed a single, and Bowie sent that song down, and we actually learnt that song 6 months before we ever played it on Hunky Dory, and we used to have it in the set.
It just works. It's the punky, riffy guitar, and I think that in the middle of a lot of the complicated stuff that Bowie had done, with the complicated keyboards and interesting, strange discords, this works so well because it is a punky, basic guitar song.
The atmosphere we were going for was like an English musical Velvet Underground approach. It wasn't sort of all hell let loose. It was a streamlined approach to it, but we still wanted to get that same atmosphere that you were in New York City and part of the happening scene and the whole thing, and I think we did.
Hunky Dory is such an odd album because it's out of time and out of sync. If you actually look at the early Bowie albums, by the time he got to The Man Who Sold the World, he'd really gone into his stride with a heavy sound. And then he took a complete directional change with Hunky Dory, which in a way should have come before The Man Who Sold the World, because The Man Who Sold the World led on to Ziggy Stardust. Hunky Dory has such a diversity of style. It's got the musical element in there. It's got the acoustic element in there as well as the heavy stuff.
Well, I'd done Man Who Sold the World album before that with Mick and Tony Visconti on bass. So for us, that was the start, really. That was the start of, I guess, really getting used to Bowie's writing and some of the strange chord sequences and time signatures. Just getting familiar with how he wrote. It wasn't what you normally expected.
Hey, no, no. Didn't know what time it was and the lights were low. I leaned back on my radio. Some cat was laying down some "Get It On, Rock and Roll," he said. Then the loud sound, it seemed to fade. Came back like a slow voice on a wave of phase.
The intro of Starman can be quite disturbing to a trained musician's ear. He was fond of just leaving strings ringing open, and it starts with a B-flat chord played on the acoustic guitar at the first position, with the E and the A strings gaily ringing open, and he doesn't seem to give a monkeys about that. And then it goes back to an F chord with the bottom E string ringing open, as it did on Space Oddity.
There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. And there's a starman waiting in the sky. He told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's all worthwhile. He told me, let the children use it, let the children use it, let all the children boogie.
The effect is a sort of a disturbing discord that often a lot of contemporary musicians would not go for that sort of thing. And I think that's where there is a huge appeal in a lot of Bowie's writing, that he didn't do what was conventional. It certainly is an unconventional intro, so that when it actually goes into the song, which is very, very normal in actual fact, and you think of the chorus is almost twee. I think the intro is a great foil to the basic simplicity of the chorus.
The impact's there anyway, but Bowie was great at building things. It's almost like he had a cinematic vision sometimes as a song. It's the old thing about build to a climax. And Bowie understood this. It was basically taking you through an episode of a story or a storyline. It's no good coming in and saying, here's the whole story, because that's it, you won't go any further. So he builds it. He keeps you on tenterhooks. Where's it going to go? How's it going to develop? And because Starman also has such a wonderful epic feel to it, by the time it reaches its climax, its crescendo, you're thoroughly involved with it. And it's wonderfully clever the way that he could do something like that. And if you think about the other bands at the time, he was doing something similar maybe to a Led Zeppelin on the one hand and a Velvet Underground on the other, but he was telling a story through music, through notes, and he understood how you tell a story.
Mick Ronson was a genius guitarist, very underrated. Everyone these days talks about Jimmy Page or, well, I mean, so many people. Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, all these kind of classic guitar heroes. People don't talk about Mick Ronson in the same breath, and I'd say he was at least as influential as all of those.
Mick Ronson was a fantastic guitarist. He wasn't just a trash rock guitarist, which he was known for because he inspired so many trash rock musicians over the years. He was very delicate when he needed to be, very fluent, very fluid. He made the guitar speak.
He was the consummate ensemble player. He was great in a band, he could be a great soloist, and he also proved that you don't have to play at 500 miles an hour to be effective.
Mick Ronson is a very underrated musician. It's only because it doesn't, the record didn't say David Bowie and Mick Ronson that he didn't become as big a star as any of those guitar players. Well, not so much a star, but in terms of someone that was talked about then and now as an incredible rock and roll guitar player. As a creative foil, he was incredible for Bowie. He did Bowie the world of good, and they looked so cool together.
Poor Ronno, his mother, she said to me she said, well, I'm so glad you called and warned me about the photograph in Melody Maker. Because I called her and I said, oh, it was a big setup shot. I didn't want her to worry, you know, I didn't want her to have a fit, you know, just because we were taking liberties with her handsome son, making it, you know, look great on stage. And I didn't want her to think it was, you know, something she shouldn't be aware of, she couldn't be proud of. I said, nah, just say to them, look at that.
I think John I'm Only Dancing was recorded while we were in the middle of an American tour. So it was, I think it was done in RCA Studios in New York.
John I'm Only Dancing was again one of those strange songs that was very homoerotic in the way the tone and it presented itself.
It was a strange song that didn't really follow the normal patterns of rock songs, I guess. It had little twisty bits in it. We were never common.
This is the line from the middle of John I'm Only Dancing, which is a lot of people like, a lot of bass players think it's a very good bass line.
Don't get me
that was the first time I think I'd ever overdubbed drums. So I played a really straight, heavy rock beat, and then the tom fills, I overdubbed them all just to get as much power that I could possibly get into the toms. It was like, forget about the feet, forget about anything else, just hit those toms as hard as you can possibly hit them. And it worked.
The screaming guitar in the chorus obviously is very, very characteristic, and the great guitar part at the end with the Pete Townsend trick with the on-off switch on the guitar is absolutely great.
On the surface, the circus seems bizarre. Yet his backing group are professional musicians. They're Yorkshire lads with down-to-earth accents whose appearance merely seems to be moulded to fit into the Bowie image.
Well, the lovely Trevor Bolder, him of the long sideboards that go down nearly as long as his legs, I don't think you can possibly overestimate how important he was to the early albums of Bowie.
Trevor Bolder was a bassist who understood where he should be. He was aggressive, he was heavy, but he fitted in well with the Spiders from Mars because it was quite a heavy band. And Trevor's always had this ability to slide into situations and enhance music without overdoing it. He's not elaborate, although I'm sure he's more than capable of being elaborate.
A great riff player. The playing on the song Ziggy Stardust is absolutely fantastic. He had character and humour. He was a melodic bass player, and I would place him equally alongside Andy Fraser as the two great British melodic rock bass players of all time.
He was a very firm, very sharp, very focused bassist to lock the sound down, and when necessary could go with the flights of fantasy and fancy. And of course he also played trumpet, which didn't do him any harm at all with Bowie.
Woody, like Trevor, is one of the great underrated British rock musicians. A great drummer who could cope quite easily with all the intricate time signature and tempo changes that strongly featured in all of Bowie's material.
Woody Woodmansey is one of the greatest drummers of all time. I've never understood why he's never got the credit, but that may well be because he was with Bowie in the Spiders from Mars and he was seen as a sideman. He deserves more credit than he gets, and I've always felt it's a little unfair that people don't realise his dexterity, his power, his drive actually played such an important part in the whole Spiders from Mars sound.
You'd listen to him and you would think, well, this is not a jazz player along the lines of a Bill Bruford or something, yet he was quite capable of handling any of that style of music. And he made some great performances. 5 years was a fantastic accomplishment for him. Life on Mars, again, was absolutely great. He could be absolutely rock solid, and he would swing like the best of them.
Small genie snuck off to the city, strung out on lasers and slashback blazers, and ate all your razors while pulling the waiters, talking about Monroe and walking on Snow White. New York's a go-go and everything tastes like.
Dream Genie was, the song was David wrote on the back of a Greyhound bus on the way to Memphis, Tennessee from New York. And originally, the guy that did the paintings on the album covers, Hunky Dory and Ziggy, George Underwood, was sat at the back of the bus with Bowie's Les Paul, and he was playing that riff and a few Chuck Berry songs he was messing about with, and David happened to cotton onto. So when George put the guitar down, David picked it up and started playing the same thing, same chord riff. And he sat at the back of the bus for about an hour and a half, just messing about and singing. They were all at the back of the bus. And 3 days later, we went back to New York, and we went in the studios in New York, and he played as Jane Genie. And he played the whole song to us, And then he said, we'll do a run through. So we did a run through. But I always remember that the Yardbirds had a song called I'm a Man, which was by some old blues singer, I don't know if Howlin' Wolf or somebody, that they'd done. And it was exactly the same riff. Da, 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 da. So I always remember Paul Samuel Smith did a run on the beginning of that. And it went da 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 da. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll elaborate on that and I'll nick it off him. So I stole it in a way, and instead of doing a single rundown, I did.
It was more feel than anything, I think, the way it works. You know, when we learnt how to play blues in the 60s, if you were going to get work as a rhythm and blues band, you really had to be able to play the blues, and you had to feel it. You had to really believe in the blues to pull it off. It was a good song. We all knew it was a good song. I mean, we had a quick run through of it, and we all knew it was like I'm a Man by the Yardbirds. We'd all played that before many times as kids. And then we had one go at it, and we didn't keep that take. And then we had one more go at it, and that was the take we kept, which if you listen to on the record is where I actually make the bass mistake that's so famous that everybody points out to me, where I go down to the B too early. But it fits, so we keep it. And I still today, if I play that song, I still play that mistake, because everybody says, you've got to play that mistake, you know, you've got to play that mistake. So it was kept, it was done in one go, and everything was kept, the guitar solo, and I remember we started, I think it was 11 o'clock, and by 12 o'clock it was all finished and mixed. And a week later, it was number 2 in the charts in England. It was the fastest single ever recorded, I think. We understood that music, but David's lyrics and vocal approach to it was completely off the wall, really, for that time.
Pushing through the market square, so many mothers crying. News had just come over. We had 5 years.
5 Years was a song that I kind of requested that they write. I knew we needed something rousing, a big anthem at the end. The audience looked like they wanted to come, you know, and there was no way to do it. I thought if they could just sing a chorus or something. So when they wrote 5 Years, I felt that they'd actually got a show now that was musically an entity.
Musically, it's a very interesting track. Because the track fades in, it leaves the listener thinking that it's an awkward time signature, but it actually isn't. It's a straight 6/8, but just at the point that the track fades in, you're caught on the wrong foot. So you tend to think that maybe it's a more complicated time signature than it really is.
5 Years starts with a drum intro, and that was really just setting the mood for the piece, really, getting that hopelessness into a drum beat that was interesting at the same time as everything's hopeless and we're all going to die, I guess. Sounds very deep, what you can actually do with a drum kit, but you can do it.
I had to cram so many things to get everything and then so many people.
no matter where the arrangement goes, which it does get quite embellished on the way through and more desperate, the drum beat still has that apathetic hopelessness about it all the way through. And it was good actually playing that. It was like being the stable point through all this mayhem.
The tempo also is so slow, it just builds up this incredible sense of tension, because it never really goes anywhere, it never fires off into another gear. It just kind of plods along in this kind of, but it's just, it brings you to boiling point really, because it's so slow and just plodding, but it's amazing.
We've got 5 years stuck on my eyes. 5 years, what a surprise. We got 5 years, my brain hurts a lot. 5 years, that's all we got. We got 5 years stuck on my eyes.
What Bowie did in that song, it was an epic for a start, and the way that he built it was to keep you on tenterhooks. So when you actually felt like you were into the song, he'd take you in a different direction.
It's an interesting song, it's because it's sort of, a lot of the rest of Ziggy Stardust is very sort of fast and furious and in your face. And 5 years is just kind of Bowie on Valiant, you know, but amazing. What an incredible song.
It's a magic build from start to finish, and then a release again. And I think this is probably my second favourite Bowie track of all time.
The music industry had gone through the blues stage, you know, and the Beatles had started, and it went into this blues stage with bands like Cream and that coming through, and the rock, and you've got the Deep Purple, and you've got all that, which was okay for the heavier people, but for the younger kids and that, there really wasn't anything except poppy records. There wasn't anything you could like. There was no hero, superhero for them. You know what I mean? There hadn't been any for a while. And when Bowie came along with Ziggy, he was a superhero, really. They latched onto that superhero. They came to see Ziggy Stardust, not David Bowie. That's what they came to see. And that was their hero, you know, and that's how it works. It's a cartoon character. And that's what he was on stage, you know, and it worked perfectly, the way it was put together. It's really hard to say why was that a great album. It just happened. We just went in, we recorded it, and everybody loved it. Because it's not down to us. It's down to the people that buy it, it's down to the people in radio stations, it's down to the press. When they got this album, they just went wild about it.
People couldn't sit down, basically. You knew when that was on, they would be up on the feet, just on the rhythm of it and the whole atmosphere of it.
Just put my smile in place. I said, hey, no, my school is insane. I said, hey, well, my work's on the train. I said, hey, she's a total down. She said she had a state adventure. And then she, oh, lonely man, who's a cannibal tit. Back from Suffragette City. Oh, lonely man, who's a cannibal tit. Back from Suffragette City. She's out of sight.
Suffragette City, what a great simple track. It's like the best of the Stones and T-Rex all rolled into one. Another open tribute to Velvet Underground, who obviously influenced Bowie a lot.
And it's another incredible intro. It's this kind of sexy riff from Ronson. You just kind of, woof, makes you want to go out and party with some girls.
Suffragette City just kicks butt. It's like it starts and it doesn't let up, and you're in a rock and roll city, you're in a rock and roll lifestyle, and that was the intention of it. The drumming on Suffragette City is very simple, but it was finding a groove that was like streamlined, that wasn't your normal rock and roll beat. It was moving. You had to get sort of real motion into it.
Bowie was actually quite a mean saxophone player. He played sax in a few bands in his David Jones years. But I think the sound of it is great. I think it captures that era of rock very, very well. It owes a lot to the Stones, in my humble opinion, but it just works. It's simplicity, and the best rock things ever are the most simple.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Suffragette in. Oh, suffragette in. She's so fine. Oh, now I wish you were mine. Well, suffragette. Suffragette.
Let me put my arms around your head. Gee, it's hot. Let's go to bed. Don't forget to turn on the lights.
Driving Saturday, every time I hear it, just reminds me of two things: the Rocky Horror Show and Back to the Future, because it's got that 1950s B-movie feel to it. It's doo-wop. It's cinematic in the way it's describing itself as well.
Driving Saturday is another one of my favourites, actually. I think it's just a futuristic rock song that isn't pretentious. It's just, I think that track's going to see, we'll see more of that track in the future. I think it's been passed over for some reason.
It also proved that, of course, he wasn't just this, rock monster guy. Bowie also loved black music, I mean, he insisted on being booked onto Soul Train when they were promoting Young Americans. He was the first white artist who'd ever been booked on Soul Train in America. Classic Bowie. He just didn't ever operate by anyone else's parameters or rules.
It's always funny, and he's strong enough to stay. And she'd sigh like Twig the Wonder Kid and turn her face away. She's uncertain if she likes him, but she knows she really loves him.
When I came down to London to join Bowie, I had a full beard. I mean, I had a full beard. It was down to here, right? Because I was I'd come up with the blues era, and Fleetwood Mac and the Beatles and all that. Everybody had beards, And it was getting to the end of that era, It was about the time I shaved it off anyway. But and Mick and Woody were clean shaved, and Bowie was clean shaved. And I kept looking at them, and I kept thinking, like, well, I look just so odd against these two. I'm just ain't going to match in here. So what I decided to do was, I thought, well, I'll shave the middle out. So I shaved the middle out, all right? And I left the tash and the sideburns. And I had that for a while. And I thought, no, that looks stupid. So I shaved the tash off, right? And it was just at the time when we'd just done Ziggy and we were getting the image together. And I thought, well, I'll shave the sideburns off as well. And then Angie Bowie says, don't you shave them off. They're part of your image now. So I was left with them. And then of course, she sprayed them silver because she had this silver tender spray that she went around spraying everybody with. And she got hold of me, and that was
He looked unbelievable. I mean, forget about Japan. Japan thought that they really invented all that. Trevor, he got to Japan. The Japanese were crazy about him. He's the only one that looked like them. No, the rest were blonde. You know what I mean? Trevor looked like he was Japanese. The fans went crazy, and he dug it.
Pin-Ups was an interesting album. These days, covers are de rigueur. Everyone does it. They do covers albums, covers EPs. They do covers all the time. Back in the mid-70s, it was almost unheard of.
I mean, it's a good album, but what is it? It's an album of cover songs. There was a story once that somebody asked Bowie about why did he do that album, and he said, "Oh, I did the album because the band were bored and needed something to do, so he blamed us for it." When actually, I always remember going around to a hotel in London, and he was playing me all the songs that he was going to do on the album, and I knew nothing about it.
There was obviously an album was needed by a record company or whatever, and that was the obvious choice, really. Some of the tracks I think worked, others would have been better left. Most of them.
It was all stuff from his era going down the marquee, all the bands he saw on the marquee.
Right.
And he picked some great songs, but it wasn't a Bowie album. It was a cover version album. And the last thing people want when you're riding on the high of Ziggy and Aladdin Sane is for him to come out and do a cover album. You know, they want new material.
You're there shooting up as usual, like tomorrow wasn't there. Beware the savage shore of 1984. See, come to remember me. We played out an all-night movie road. You said it would last, but I guess we enrolled in 1984. In 1984.
Diamond Dogs was a little bit of a patchy album. It was coming towards the end of a certain era for Bowie. And you sometimes got the feeling at that point that Bowie allowed things to go on slightly too long. Later on in his career, he'd be very ruthless in terms of, right, I don't want to do another album like this because I've done everything I want to do in that area. Heroes and Low, for instance. He could have done a third album because I think everyone was fascinated by where he'd go. No, I've done it. I don't need to do anything more because I can't top Heroes.
Many people think that Diamond Dogs was a bit of a disappointment, and I have to put my hand on my heart and say I think yes, it was. I think he'd fired the Spiders from Mars. Goodness knows why. One hastens to guess why he would have broken up such a successful format.
I mean, one minute we were doing the show and everything was going fine, you know, and the next he was retiring and the band was fired.
It was desperate. It was a desperate album in content, but I thought it was incredible in setting a whole scene up of desperateness and the 1984 approach. I think it was brilliant in that context.
I think Diamond Dogs definitely suffers from that lack of band cohesion. Maybe the songs also were a bit ambitious. They're very themed, very much around the whole 1984 George Orwell thing. So, you know, maybe it was a bit too conceptual.
I think it stretched audiences just a little bit too much in the image of it and the content. It's probably up to that point, the stretching was just enough that they could actually tolerate. It stretched them, but it didn't overstretch. And I think Diamond Dogs just pulled it a little bit into the, ooh, not sure if we want to go there.
Some people have accused him of kind of rewriting the Gene Genie with Rebel Rebel, which I just think is very harsh. It's a classic Bowie single, one of the best riffs Ronson ever wrote.
Of course, Rebel Rebel was the big hit single from Diamond Dogs, and was it as good as previous singles? As a song, I think absolutely. I think it was great. That wonderful riff.
Say I'm wrong, exactly then. Put them on. Rebel, rebel, put on your dress. Rebel, rebel, your face is a mess. Rebel, rebel, I look and know. Hot tramp, I love you so.
Now, the Trevor or I played on that one, but most people assume we did because it seems to have that same approach. I think that's probably the only other track without us that sounds like us. Whether that was intentional, I don't know, but it was definitely a good single.
Up until that point, drugs hadn't really been a big part of his life, but from the Ziggy period onwards, drugs were a big part of Bowie's life. And you can kind of hear this as if you actually listen to the songs on a deeper level, you can hear he's certainly got, how should we put it, the doors of perception have been opened within his mind.
The drugs were what caused him to be unbearable to work with. He wasn't god-awful when I met him. He really wasn't. He was charming. The drugs in America caused him to be, first, incommunicable. He couldn't speak. He couldn't put two words together. Throw him on a stage, he was fine. He could do the whole show and come off and he'd be a blithering idiot. But like Marianne Faithfull, throw him on a stage and he was fine. But that's not enough. I'm sorry. I wasn't in awe of what he did on stage. I've seen better people on stage. What I was interested in was whether we were delivering quality material. I know it sounds camp, but I'm serious. I'm really that old-fashioned. I just wanted to know that it was a great show and the music was as great as it could be and you could hear it and they looked good and it was exciting. Well, I accomplished that. I couldn't accomplish anymore. After that, he wouldn't talk to me. After that, I was persona non grata. All he wanted to do was to get rid of me.
The Hammersmith Odeon in London. David Bowie plays the part of Ziggy Stardust for the last time. Ziggy was Bowie's most celebrated role, a weird and fated rock star who was both a parody of the archetypal rock star and an extension of Bowie's own personality.
Now Ziggy played guitar, jamming good with weird and spiders from Mars. Well, he played it left hand, but he made it too far, became the special man.
Working with David was different. It was, you know, sometimes a matter of keeping up with where he was going.
I know loads of people who would love to have done what I did. You know, it was the most exciting thing I've ever done.
In the studio, sometimes impatient, you know, which probably led to the reason why we only did 3 takes at the most. He would expect everybody to really have it together. So you had to, you know, otherwise the atmosphere would go a bit sour. Once you knew that was the game, then you played that game, and it was all right. So that got tough.
Well, the band, you've got 3 musicians from Hull. 2 of them have played together for quite a long time in a band called The Rats, and then me, who played in the area in another band, a rival band, and we all did the same sort of music, and we were all into heavy rock and blues and power music, you know, good feel power music. And then when I joined, we still had that, and then we took it to Bowie, who basically, in some respects, was a folk singer. And you put his songs with our music and our power that we had, and he's put the really great songs together, and all of a sudden the songs change because the band turns it and twists it, and you come up with a great combination, you know. And I think that's what happened. It was just either happened by chance or it was fate or whatever, I don't know, but it just happened. It just gelled.
It's like that thing of the happy times are getting there, not necessarily when you get there. you know, when you look back, you realise that they were the good times, and you didn't sort of notice the really good times because you were going through them thinking the good time was at the other end. But you get there and look back and you go, no, that was a good time, you know. I mean, even sleeping in a sleeping bag on his landing in his flat, which is where we probably slept for about a year. The whole band were in sleeping bags, you know, doing the first albums and that. And at the time you think it's rough. You look back and you think, no, it was actually cool. We got up, had a coffee, went down and played drums straight away and jammed, and then had breakfast, and, you know, it was good. It was a good scene, you know.
And then to do Ziggy, and then from then on for Ziggy to take off. I mean, I'd always wanted to be in a band that was successful, and that was huge, you know, and it wasn't the sort of success where you do an album, you have a hit album, and then nobody ever hears about you again. To do Ziggy, which is a classic album, and it always will be, you know, it's up there with Sgt. Pepper and stuff like that. It was amazing to play on that.